Vulnerability is an amazing equalizer. It lets us know that we are all the same. And so I'm going to start off by revealing one of my greatest vulnerabilities, and you might find yourself looking at it right now. Why? What would it look like if you shared something today that made your voice shake, and in response, somebody expressed love and gratitude? What would it look like to share something that you believed was a weakness, only to have it reflected back to you as a part of your beauty, your poetry? I see our default is to remain disengaged, is to be apart from one another. Even in a very hyper-connected world, our comfort is in creating distance and prevents us from opportunities to grow and connect. We are meant to be in connection.
Go ahead and close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to notice where your thoughts are right now.
So I started attending conferences as a speaker or an attendee in late 2014, and I very quickly realized that at most of the places that I was going to be quite candid, all of the places that I was going to, people didn't seem to really feel connected until it was time to leave. And that meant that they weren't taking risks while they were together. And to me, that just seemed like a horrible loss of opportunity. I couldn't help but ask the question, what would happen if people came together and felt connected at the beginning of an experience? Well, we're a connection company at RTC. Connection is the centerpiece of everything that we do. And so I went back to my team and asked the question, how would we solve this challenge that I'm seeing at conferences? And the vulnerability wall art installation was our response to that problem that I saw in the world. So the initial installation of the vulnerability wall was a 16-foot wide by 8-foot tall black canvas.
Our goal is to fill this whole wall.
You just write on the back of one of these cards and drop it in the anonymous Dropbox.
And we invited attendees who were coming into the space to share something vulnerable that they were bringing in, they were carrying in with them, and they drop it anonymously in the box.
Did you share?
Oh yeah, I just did.
Oh, great.
I wrote being financially transparent.
And our artists would take those submissions and actually use them as the basis for art on the wall itself. I think the wall presents two opportunities. One is certainly to see our humanity in each other. But I think where the wall really has a magical component is that we're all carrying these vulnerabilities, these things that we're hiding from one another because we're afraid of judgment, because we are afraid that someone will reject us if we share those. And we see those as a darkness about ourselves or a weakness. And we submit that into this anonymous box and drop it into the world. And so there's this first component of letting go of a secret, right? So the process begins through that act. And then when we come back later, I have to look at that piece if I've submitted it. And I have to acknowledge that there are two stories now that are available to me. The one I came in with, which is that this is my darkness, this is my weakness. And the one that's being reflected back to me, which is that this is my beauty.
First, I love the questions of sort of your greatest strength or the thing you're most proud of. And I love the question of the things that you're the least proud of. For many people, it may quite clearly be the first time that they ever express those things.
When we're vulnerable, when we're willing to take the first step, when we're willing to open ourselves up in front of another person, it creates the permission, the space for them to do so as well.
So I like to use the metaphor of a dating ladder to describe the traditional progression through a relationship. And step one of that ladder, I call it flirting. So whether it's romantic or business connection that we're after, flirting is that initial spark of ignition between two people. And if flirting is fun, then we advance up the ladder to step two, coffee. So our goal during coffee is to hook the other person, and we do that by sharing something that makes us feel cool. So if during coffee we find ourselves feeling awesome about each other, then we're ready to advance up the ladder to step three, and we go to dinner. So during dinner, we share something more substantial. We offer a life philosophy or a guiding principle. We allow the other person to see the world from behind our eyes. So if after dinner we still like each other, then maybe we're willing to accept that invitation to a second date, the next rung up the ladder. And the second date, we have to offer up something that invites the other person to reject us, to run in the opposite direction. At this stage, if we can reserve judgment and accept each other for who we are, this is where we start falling in love. And that's the final rung of the ladder. I call it the big night. This is where we share our deepest secrets, our hidden dreams, our greatest hopes. Most of us enter relationships from the bottom of the ladder, flirting and having coffee. My question is, what would happen if we entered more relationships from the top? What if we led with vulnerability? I want to get people in the habit of practicing this level of bravery.
I was keeping our flags at half-mast for the foreseeable future in deference to San Bernardino. And I mentioned San Bernardino, Paris, and Belgium. And then I went home and I was reading the New York Times, and there was an article about the other 1,100 people that had been killed in Southeast Asia, in Africa, in the Middle East. And I'm like, oh my God, my racist self did not recognize all these other cultures that had been terrorized and killed.
Say one thing to somebody close to you that you're afraid to share.
I'm not going to go to the college that I thought I was going to. I'm not going to play at a collegiate level, and all of a sudden that identity that is wrapped up in soccer is completely gone, and I have to be someone else. And that's what I was entering into when I was 18.
My father, who was or would become even more of an alcoholic, I think one night, age 8 or 9, he had been drinking. He picked me up by my neck and pinned me up on the wall. My feet are off the ground. I've learned more from my father since he's left. I've learned more from my grandfather since he's left.
I stole money from my first employer. It was a fast food company, and I was a cashier. And I was a smart enough and arrogant enough young 16-year-old that I knew how to rig their system. Sharing that was hard because I have judgment around what I did. But actually, I think sharing it is even harder because I also have pride around what I did. I feel like I was smart and savvy. And I think I feel that because there was no human face to who I was taking money from. Because, and this is something I've never said out loud, I also stole from my second employer. He was a good man, and I was a stupid kid. As a result of what I just shared, you have two possible reactions. One is to say, that made me horribly uncomfortable and I want nothing else to do with Corey Blake. And that's a totally fair response. The other possible reaction is, wow, I haven't heard that kind of authenticity very often in my life, and it makes me feel good about who I am. Thank you for sharing something that was so painful in your life. It makes me feel okay about some of the pain in mine. That is the point of the art installation. It gives us an opportunity to see our own humanity in other people and know which of those reactions is appropriate for us. And either reaction is awesome.
I see my life experiences. I've loved wrong. This is all of us. I mean, really, jumping into the void, yeah, it's powerful.
If you get real, then it gets really powerful. And it's really hard for me to get the employees to get real.
That's why this is so powerful. We have to get our businesses to get this. My kids are going to go work for someone, and I don't want them to have the same experience I had. It destroyed. It was toxic. It almost destroyed my marriage and me.
So in that ladder, the first rungs, those are things that I'm projecting that help you feel a certain way about me. And that's what we do most of the time in relationship. We stay in those bottom 3 tiers, we get into a dating ritual until one of us does something that the other one goes, oh, I knew that you were bad for me, you finally showed your true colors, and you've given me a reason to bounce. But if we come from the top of the ladder, if we start from that kind of vulnerable intimacy, an entirely different relationship becomes possible.
You could start today with that person who you feel transgressed you, that person who pins you up on the wall, and say, I love you. I love you. I don't know, that may be the only thing you need to say.
I hug My hope for you, the viewer, is that after watching this, you will quickly find someone who you feel is a safe person in your life to share something from the top of the ladder, something that makes your voice shake and feels dangerous to put out into the world. Because if you do, regardless of the outcome, you get to feel the pride of having courage to be that intimate and to offer and invite someone else into that level of intimacy. And if you do that just a few times in your life, there's no way that you're going to be able to deny that your vulnerability is sexy.